Fellow Southern Cameroonians, Ambazonians, I throw una salute from the front. Today, na number 20 day for January for this year 2018. We know now say this moment, na moment we get for the showam with all we might. Say don't make now 1 year and some few days since we government be ban consortium, then arrest some of we key leaders. And so on the occasion of this, I should call it sad anniversary, we have to prove to Yaounde more and more that on all fronts we are okay. That is why these revelations I'm bringing to you have been made known to me so that they should be able to guide our thinking. They should be able to guide the way we are approaching this struggle. Yes, fellow comrades, we have done wonderful things over the past several months. We have gone around the world. We have demonstrated in major streets and major cities around the world. We have observed ghost towns and school boycotts in Southern Cameroons, while some have kept the promise of economic boycott by not paying taxes to La République du Cameroon. There are others who were coerced to do so. But all the same, this January 2018 is an opportunity for us to settle down generally and re-strategize. I know that right now, all our minds, all our thoughts, and all our actions are geared towards ensuring the freedom of our interim president, Sisiku Ayuk and members of his cabinet that were captured on the 5th of January at Nera Hotel in Abuja. Let me say just a bit about that. I'm sure a good lot of you have already seen information that I published on my Facebook wall on Friday, and certainly the updates that have been coming from one forum to the other. I guess we are all now getting more and more certain that the interim president and all the members of his cabinet are still in Nigeria. That La République du Cameroon did what they know how to do too well, sprayed millions of dollars in Nigeria, but ended up not succeeding. Basically because Nigeria is a democracy. Basically because in Nigeria, despite the pockets of corruption that will still exist, Nigeria is a country that respects the rule of law. And we definitely are going to be seeing this in the days ahead as the lawyers that have been hired to work for our interim president and his team are at it. And they are going to take this matter to the courts to ensure that as soon as possible, they could be set free. It is needless for me to point out that, the proper thing that the interim government needs to do right now, I mean, those at least who were not picked up that they need to do right now, is keep aside the trilogy, that's the presidential council that was put in place, and bring up one person among them. I'm adding my voice to that of other activists who have called on this, that we should be able to at least have one person, an acting interim president, who should come out there, speak loud, clear, and tough, and re-galvanize all of us again into very serious action that will continue to dish out a serious nightmare to the authorities in Yaounde, that will continue to match what our boys defending themselves on the ground back in Southern Cameroons are doing out here, that we should be able to up this game, that we should be able to demonstrate strongly our attachment to this revolution. Because I'm sure a good lot of us must have come to terms right now that failure in this revolution is not an option. Because if we fail, for too many people, you have no country. Imagine the number who have come home and were repatriated at the airport. Imagine a number of those who were captured and they realized they had foreign nationalities and they were deported like bandits from other countries. Imagine exactly how many of us are losing family members back home. We can't even participate at the funerals. We can't even be at the burials. Imagine all of these things. It will be worse if we fail. So failure is not an option. If I were you, I will pick up my dictionary right now and take a bold marker and cross the word failure, because it should no longer exist in our vocabulary. let alone in our dictionaries, in the dictionaries specifically used by Southern Cameroonians. What I want to point out here is that we need to encourage ourselves by all means. We need to talk ourselves into being full ambassadors of this revolution wherever we are. There are so many things we can quarrel about. There are so many things we should get mad about. But trust me, folks, all that matters to me now is raising funds to assist our valiant boys on the ground who are defending themselves against this terrorist army. Yes, they are doing a great job. They deserve our support and our encouragement. Let everyone everywhere put their money where their mouth is. Let us support these gentlemen. They are doing a lot for us. They are rescuing our vulnerable people on the ground from the evil pangs of these people. Because you want to know it, let me tell us, we are on our own. Yes, for quite some time, all of us drank of the opium that the international community will rise up to assist us. We drank of the opium that the United Nations was going to come out strong for us, that the United Kingdom will stand in and then support us, that the United States of America, as a gendarme of the world, will stand up and say no to the perpetration of these vices, because we know that American values stand for virtue. But it is a reality we have to become used to as we go ahead in this revolution, that we are on our own. If you are still doubting it, I'm sure a good lot of us have been watching and listening to journalist Russell of the Inner City Press, when he talked even to the UN Secretary General Guterres himself about Southern Cameroons. We also how he ate his mouth. Now, on to the big news I'm bringing to us. I was taking that transition to let us know that the entire international system is a conspiracy. And until we force their hand, until we force their hand, none of them will stand with us. None of them will stand for us. They will prefer the easy wrong, which is collecting their own share of resources from the dictatorial regime in Yaounde and abandoning us to our woes. Now, on to the big news. We all were witnesses to the visit of the Secretary General of the Commonwealth of Nations, Baroness Patricia Scotland, to Yaounde, to Cameroon, late in December. When she came in, she had 2 audiences with the Prime Minister, head of government. And the Prime Minister, head of government, Philemon Yang, wrote 2 separate reports to the President of the Republic. One after the audience he had with Patricia Scotland at the Nsimalene International Airport on the 18th of December. And the second report on the 22nd of December after he had another audience with Mrs. Patricia Scotland in his office about 7:30 p.m. in the presence of Mr. John Mbah, who is Minister Delegate at the Ministry of External Relations in charge of relations with the Commonwealth. Now, I'm giving all these precisions so that you should understand and know exactly what I'm talking about, because I now have copies of those reports. Copies of those reports were sent to me by my sources at the Secretariat General of the Presidency of the Republic. Now, what is the content of this report? It's frightening what you will hear. First, Mrs. Patricia Scotland told Prime Minister Philemon Yang that her visit to Cameroon was basically to thank Mr. Paul Biya for the role he played in her election, for the contributions he made for her to be elected Secretary General of the Commonwealth. Now you see where they operate. It's first of all from the basis of friendship. So she wasn't coming there to ask questions. She was coming there to bring her support to him in the carnage he is perpetrating on the people of Southern Cameroons. Yes. And then she swore to Mr. Philemon Yang, as he put in his report to the head of state, that the Commonwealth stands for one and indivisible Cameroon. Yes, Ms. Patricia Scotland said that the Commonwealth stands for one and indivisible Cameroon. She made clear that the Commonwealth will never ever support anything that has to do with Cameroon being divided. I think this is important for us to know, because there have been some reports that came out giving us the impression that the Secretary General of the Commonwealth, or the Commonwealth as a whole, as an organization, has been supporting the people of Southern Cameroons, or will show some degree of fairness because of the values that characterize that institution. We now must begin to understand that these values, called the core values of the Commonwealth, matter only when the interest of the hegemonic powers, in this case, the United Kingdom of Great Britain, are concerned. Anything short of that, forget it. And Mrs. Patricia Scotland did another thing. She virtually reported our comrades in the United Kingdom of America, of Great Britain, of the United Kingdom of Great Britain, who met with her and talked to her. She castigated the Southern Cameroons leaders that they were seeking the suspension of the Republic of Cameroon from the Commonwealth of Nations, a thing she will never ever support. You notice this. She said she will never support the suspension of La République du Cameroun because it is a friendly nation, it's a nice country, she respects Mr. Paul Biya so much, she has a lot of admiration for him, he contributed enormously for her to become Secretary General of the Commonwealth. So even if Mr. Paul Biya slaughters all Southern Cameroonians, yes, puts on the streets and cuts the head one after the other, Mrs. Patricia Scotland will never ever support the suspension of Cameroon. So we now understand that all those things we often hear, this country has been suspended because of the poor human rights record or because of their poor democracy records and all whatnot, is a farce. It has nothing to do with reality. It's because both individual and the collective interests of the hegemonic powers have not been respected in those countries. And then, when she came in, she requested from the Prime Minister on that 18th of December that she would like, if it were possible, to visit either Bamenda or Boya, depending on the government, for whichever of these towns they would accept for her to visit, because she said if she didn't go to any of these towns, the people of Southern Cameroons, who overwhelmingly did not already want that visit, will use this to demonstrate that she just came to Cameroon to dine and wine with Mr. Paul Biya and to help, reinforce the strategies of annihilation. Actually, she said if she didn't go there, it will also be a victory to the Southern Cameroons, I put the word she used, separatists, because they will use that to demonstrate that the government no longer has any control in those areas and could not therefore ensure her security. In effect, what she told the Prime Minister was that she needed to go there as a cover-up. She wasn't going there because she needed genuinely to talk to the people of Southern Cameroons or to touch the realities for herself. And I think all of us know this because as she was driven into Boya, to the venue where she had to meet people, she was driven straight into that hotel. She sat there. When she talked with the people and finished, she came back out and was driven straight out of Boya. She never gave herself the chance to stop anywhere or to talk even to ordinary people or to even beckon on anybody by the street side like we have seen seasoned diplomats do. This confirms exactly what is in this report by the Prime Minister, who was informing the head of state well in advance before she had to meet with him that she wanted to go to this place as a cover-up. And that is why the government chose Boya, because they said they were so certain, the Prime Minister noted that, they were so certain that it were easy to, in the southwest region, find chiefs and people who could pose as civil society activists who would talk to her about the need for the one and indivisible Cameroon. And exactly that is what the Prime Minister put in his report to the head of state, that she told him that all the Southwest chiefs she met in Boya never ever mentioned anything about the restoration of the independence of the Southern Cameroons. They never ever mentioned anything as if they were angry with the head of state or the government as far as the handling of the issue is concerned. They never ever talked about even the need for a federal system. They rather stood and insisted on the need for the respect and promotion of the one and indivisible Cameroon. This is what she said, coming from the Southwest chiefs that she met. Mrs. Scotland outlined again very neatly that a lot of these chiefs have a lot of admiration for the head of state and expressed a desire that all he just needed to do is talk. That all he just needs to do is come out there and say something about this struggle and say it in a kind of way that will make people at least feel that something is going to be done, even if we're not going to be done, so that people could go to sleep. Now, but she had one frustration, because even in this entire melodrama, the government was unable to select from within the Catholic prelates only the ones that could support government. Unfortunately, the Catholic prelates stood out differently. And Mr. Yang Philemon said in his report that Mrs. Bam was particularly frustrated at what she considered an alarmist report from the Catholic authorities that she met in Boya. She said they were too alarmist about the situation, that they were too angry and too frustrated about the kind of maltreatment being meted on the people of Southern Cameroons by security forces from La République du Cameroon, that they were so frustrated and angry at the way government has been handling the crisis, that they were so annoyed and expressed a lot of sternness against the government because the government opened negotiations with teachers and lawyers. And while the negotiations were going on, government suddenly decided to stop and arrest them, thus worsening and escalating the situation to where we are today. Mrs. Scotland didn't find this as a concern. She was rather angry at the Catholic priests for being angry at Yaounde for perpetrating ills on innocent and unarmed civilians. This is amazing. Coming from a diplomat who was expected to come in and do the questioning and ask questions. But we rather find a diplomat who came here as an enabler, who came here as a facilitator, who came here to help the government give her ideas on how to clamp down on the people of Southern Cameroons. What a pity. What an embarrassment. This is a shock, but I think it is important for us. I'm saying this, I have this report. I have the physical report, a copy of the report. And I'm actually drawing from the report to give us this communication so that we know how the international community operates, so that we know how we handle our revolution going forward, so that we know that we are actually on our own, so that we know that if we have not been contributing seriously to push this struggle forward, this is the time to do it. Because until we are able to do what we are supposed to do, we'll be able to discuss a lot of these things of what we are supposed to do in our private forums and in our private discussions. But the most important thing to do is everyone, wherever you are, you must begin to remove money. What we need in this revolution now is money. The ground forces need money. Our boys on the ground defending the vulnerable people from the vultures from La République, from the evil forces from La République, from the terrorist soldiers, police and gendarmes from La République. They need money. They need money. They need money. What they need is money. Now, back to Mrs. Patricia Scotland. The last two things. She said all the political parties, this is amazing, because we know that she met with officials of the Social Democratic Front. And the report we had was that the officials of the Social Democratic Front were really stern. They told her as it was. She had to know from them exactly what it is. But unfortunately, this is not true, because the Prime Minister's report indicates that the political party representatives that she met rather told her how much respect they have for Mr. Paul Biya, that they respect Mr. Paul Biya's head of state so much, and that they believe in his strategy. They believe in the manner that he has been taking. They believe in his military approach so much so that all what they need to do is for him to complement his military approach, he should come out there and make a strong speech only on the Southern Cameroons question. And to oil it all, Mr. Paul Biya should visit either Bamenda or Boya at his convenience and give in a lot of promises, even if he has no intention of keeping to any of those promises. That will help spray perfume on excrement. That is the substance of this report that Prime Minister Philemon Yang sent to the head of state, deduced from the discussions he had with the Secretary General of the Commonwealth of Nations. So now we all know what Mrs. Patricia Scotland carried back to London, carried back to the Commonwealth headquarters, and will carry back to the Commonwealth heads of government, summit whenever it's going to hold. A very biased and unacceptable account of what is happening in Southern Cameroons. My dear brothers and sisters, if you look keenly, you'll notice that I'm sweating. Yes, I'm sweating because the enormity of the task before us is becoming more and more real. For those of us who are on ground zero, we are going to be sending people out there to organize you in a way that you will all contribute. Like I said earlier, freedom is not free. You all contribute. If it is 1,000 francs per person per month for the upkeep of this struggle, so that this money will be directed to these young men who have decided to put their lives on the line to protect us. If we do not do this, we are actually going to be playing to the galleries. And for all of us who are out there, transform all WhatsApp groups, transform all Facebook groups, transform all Yahoo groups, every group that I have on social media, transform this group into fundraising groups, into fundraising clubs, transform all into fundraising clubs. We need funds now. We have spoken so much. We have discussed strategy so much. The people who are on the ground already know what to do. The people who are on the ground are having enough information. Yes, they have been schooled permanently now by a lot of strategies, giving them the ideas on how to go about it. Let us stop discussions about strategies on social media. The time now is to transform all those groups into fundraising groups. In each group, let us give ourselves a monthly levy, and all this money be directed to the forces on the ground, to these gentlemen who have decided to put their lives on the line so that we will get our freedom. It is only in this way that we shall send a clear signal to the world that nothing will be decided about Southern Cameroons in one conference room or in one boardroom or the other without the consent of the people. And I want to draw the attention of Mrs. Patricia Scotland that if she really wants to know it, tell La République du Cameroon that now, Mr. Paul Biya, since all your people are really with you, why don't you allow the United Nations to organize a referendum? Because we don't want a referendum organized by La République du Cameroon. That why don't we have a referendum independently organized and supervised so that you come out of this big? Yes, Mr. Paul Biya, you're so popular. All Southern Cameroonians are for you. They respect you a lot. They adore you. They admire you. Oh my God. So, sir, why allow a few people to be disturbing you? Allow for the organization of this referendum so that you can show the results to the world. Allow the United Nations. Allow a third party to come in. And Mr. Biya, you will come out of this big. Fellow Southern Cameroonians, we have to force the hand of the international community. They will never come to us just because we are moving on the streets and crying and shouting. We need to do what we need to do. Why we go to the streets to sing and dance is also good for our health. Why we do all of this, why we communicate in every other way, let us be dipping our hands far, far, far into our pockets to do what we have to do. Because the times are high. The stakes are so high. And all of this depends only on us and no one else. There are other aspects of this report that I couldn't bring in this communication because it will be too long. I'll bring out those other aspects which are equally very important for us in our subsequent discussion. Until we have the chance to talk again, please, money, wherever you are, put the money where your mouth is. God is with us.